All right, we're going to go ahead and give this a second to turn on. Make sure that we are connecting. We are streaming live to both YouTube and Twitch right now. So, first episode, episode 1 of the Dynasty Doctor. I am the Dynasty Doctor, self-proclaimed, bringing together a PhD and a joy for Dynasty. Gonna have different guests on, maybe every week or every episode. This week for episode 1, I got my good friend Knez on here with me. Uh, Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Would you like to introduce yourself? Uh,
Sure.
Tell the people who you are.
I'm also a fellow doctor, just a recent graduate. Got my PhD as well. I'm a fantasy football holic. Been doing this for decades now. I think we're almost close to 20 years of playing fantasy sports. Um, as you mentioned, Sean, I am a very proud Jaguars fan. Been a Jaguars fan since the Brunel days.
There you go.
Joined the league. I needed a football team, so I figured, why not? Let me start fresh. Let me follow the Jaguars. They're starting. I'm starting. Let's do it.
Sooner or
And the
later
rest
might
is history.
sooner or later might become the London Jaguars, but that's another conversation for another day. Just
I'm
wanna
waiting.
Just want to thank everybody for tuning in, or listening to this at a later date. We are just going to go ahead and hop right into it, though. Right now, going on in the world of Dynasty and the world of the NFL football, we have the college football playoffs. So if you are currently sitting at halftime watching Ohio State beat up on Texas and you are taking a break to listen to us, I appreciate it.
I don't know
Um,
about beat up. Did you not see the last minute of the game? Two touchdowns scored in the last minute of
I
the game.
know.
Trayvon Henderson.
It's amazing, and we're going to get to those prospects here in just a second. But going to go ahead and use this time to promote my own Twitter channel. I appreciate everybody for following. It is a new channel, but I do look to post every day in the off season. So
That
we do have a couple of players playing right now in this Texas and Ohio State game that are ranked in the top 10 of ESPN rankings. Both Quinn Ewers and Will Howard are in the top 10 of those rankings. Isaiah Bond, the Texas wide receiver, as well as Egbuka, the Ohio State wide receiver, are both in the top 10. Ohio State has a pair of really strong running backs. I think Texas probably has that edge in tight end, and they both have um, some offensive linemen that we're going to see go pretty early in the draft. Are there anybody, Nez, that's you have your eye on that you've been watching pretty close here as the college football playoffs are going on?
absolutely, and it's ironic you didn't even mention him, the freshman wideout for Ohio State. I got my eye out for him next year. He's got another year under his belt, but
Are you
Mr. Smith, I think, is going to be the real deal.
He, I believe, is projected to come out in 2027, so you might be waiting a little bit longer on that.
I'll
Um,
wait.
yeah, he's going to be an absolute beast. He was he looks like a Ferrari when you go into the shop and you're looking at next year's model. But unfortunately, you're looking at the model, like I said, 2 years from now. I believe him and Ryan Williams, the other freshman wide receiver, really looking like a strong wide receiver
Yeah.
class 2 years from now. So
I
I
mean, I'm in 2 years because that's the only draft picks I got nowadays. I wasted all my draft picks.
Gotta get into more leagues, man. Get those picks up. Every off season is exciting. You can obviously trade back in. Um,
Oh yeah.
is there anybody else you have your eye on? Any guys that you're looking at coming out into this year's draft?
And again, it's oh, this year's draft. Actually, I'm gonna be looking out on Trayvon Henderson. I know we mentioned it, but he's been kind of flying injuries. He's been flying under the radar, but especially what he just did in this game, he's going to be a very interesting person because the running back, the big talk is the Boise State running back JD. So
Yeah, this is a extremely strong running back class for 2025 rookies. Obviously, everybody knows Ashton Genty, and he's going to be going 101 in a lot of drafts. But this is a really strong draft where you're going to see the end of the first, early second. Going to see a lot of running backs go day two, and a lot of value in your rookie drafts. And I do think the Ohio State running backs are going to slowly find their way up in those rankings, and we'll get to be breaking down those rookie rankings here in a second. Um, but yeah, actually, why don't we go ahead and transition into that? Why don't we go ahead and transition into the 2025 rookies before we go into the NFL players and looking back into last year and beyond?
let's do it.
So I want to pull up. a spreadsheet that I got here of rookies that have may or may not have declared for this upcoming NFL season. I do have a couple of quarterbacks to note, guys that have considered maybe going back to college or are going back to college. For example, Drew Aller out of Penn State, Carson Beck we already know is committed to Miami, and then we expect Dylan Gabriel of Oregon to go back, but there is a potential for him to declare just the same as Drew Aller. As everybody knows, this is an underwhelming quarterback class. We have the top dogs in Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Jalen Milroe, recently pronounced very athletic quarterback with a lot of potential, a lot of that upside, but a good frame, not somebody that I expect to take a lot of injuries or to get a lot of injuries. Then you do have some of these really pure quarterbacks, and Jackson Dart, Kyle McCord recently declared at a Syracuse. He was in, I believe, top 5 in the Heisman voting. These are guys with rocket arms, and I really think you're going to see move up the draft boards as the process comes out, the combine, and so on and so forth.
And injuries come out. I don't know if you heard about Deshaun Watson, but holy hell.
I did second surgery. He's going to be having to miss, it looks like miss the entire 2025 season. I actually think this is even more likely now that the Cleveland Browns take a quarterback at 2. I don't see them passing. I heard even if they don't. Actually, I saw a rumor today, or I think it was a write-up, that even if they were to pass on a quarterback at 2, they have the 33rd overall pick, first pick in the second round. So targeting a guy like Jackson Dart or a Kyle McCord, if they're there, I mean, there's a ton of QB needy teams, so it'll be really interesting to see
I
how this
even heard
process plays
rumors that
out.
they might trade up to number one.
So I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in trading up to 1. I'm not sold on the Titans staying and picking. They're a franchise that needs a lot of assets, and maybe they give Will Levis another shot and they trade back for a handful of picks. Who knows? Because I do think there are some teams that are going to fall in love with Shador Sanders or fall in love with Cam Ward, and they're going to
And
be
that's what I'm
compelled
saying.
to
I
move
feel
up.
like in a redraft league, right? If you have the second pick, right? You're just gonna take what falls in your lap. And you ask me, I think that's what Cleveland should do. Take what falls in your lap.
Yeah, I think they should stay at 2, and absolutely take what falls into their lap. I agree with that. The moving over to the running backs here, I have this broken up into a slight tier break where this gap is on my screen, where we about have the top 10 based upon ESPN. But these second half names are definitely some names not to take lightly. These are guys that are going to be moving up the draft board. But obviously, after Ashton Gentry, the superstar out of Boise, got a lot of really popular names that I think are going under the radar. These top 3 names are guys that I personally haven't heard a lot of. I don't watch a lot of college ball. I've definitely heard a
Wait,
lot
you've definitely
more.
heard of the first guy.
Oh no, I'm saying yeah. I'm talking about 2 through 4 because I've heard a
Oh,
lot more about this pair out of Penn State, Cam Scadaboo out of Arizona State, and then
you better move
This
him way
pair
up.
out of Ohio State that have been there in the college football playoffs that we're all watching now. But a lot of guys that are going to be moving up and down as this draft process plays out.
I tell you, these college football playoffs have been the best thing to happen to college football. Um, Cam, you got to move Cam right under Jinky. He was a beast. Talk about Mike Allstott. Talk about who was the guy? Peyton Hillis.
Hmm.
That's gonna be him. He's coming right out of college, going straight to the NFL, and he is gonna be a bruiser. I loved him because they would catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really hear anything about him until that game. And boy, was it a game.
He was on a couple of people's top 5 Heisman's. Obviously, he was never going to be in that top 2, that top 3 of those guys that had separated themselves. But he had a really good year. But absolutely being able to shine in the college football playoffs and what that opportunity gives players, I mean, it puts the national spotlight on them. Us as casual fans to college football. Me personally, I'm really in the NFL realm until these guys declare or it becomes the year right before they're going to declare. I don't have much interest in watching tape on them. So much change when it comes to those college standings. One other guy I just want to point out, Nicholas Singleton from Penn State, although they lost, had 3 touchdowns, had a really strong game. ESPN actually has his running mate, Katron Allen, rated above him. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think there's a lot of back and forth. I think you could pretty much put them side by side. But I think that duo out of Penn State, like I said, along with that duo out of Ohio State, is just such a strong running back class. And I haven't even gotten to the bottom 10. I mean, gosh, we have Travis Etienne's brother, Trevor Etienne, not long ago was projected as one of the top running backs in this class. Had a weaker 2024 season, but once again, just such a strong running back class overall. And I'm really excited
Yeah,
for this rookie draft. Any final thoughts on the rookie class? I mean, let's just stick to the quarterbacks and running backs here. Anybody that stands out, or anybody that you might have your eye on, or maybe a buy or a sell that you're thinking as this draft process unfolds.
you know, Egbuka. I mean, he's kind of been up there the entire time he's been in, at Ohio State. I mean, in Jigba, he kind of was the second fiddle to him, and look what Jigba did. So I'm gonna look out. I think he might fly under the radar because a lot of the mock drafts I see, I don't see him going that high. Um, so I think he's gonna be a sleeper. I think he's gonna be good. I'm
No,
a fan of him.
yeah, I agree. He's a name I believe he could have declared last year, and a lot of people thought that
Right.
maybe he should have, and he would have been one of the top wide receivers this year's, or excuse me, last year. So to go back to school, put up, I don't know what his numbers were. I'm assuming similar numbers. He's still ranked as a clearly as a top four wide receiver in this class. I've seen in all rankings that I've come across. So I strongly believe someone that could go in the first round, I think is going to get slowly pushed up the board as we
He's
get a
gonna
little
be,
bit closer.
he's gonna be sneaky, and also what I think is gonna be interesting. What the hell does Travis Hunter do? Is he gonna be a
Oh
defender?
man,
Is he gonna be a wideout? Is he gonna play quarterback? Who knows what the kid's gonna do?
that's a whole nother conversation probably for another day. I think he's going to play a little bit of both. He's going to play more of one position and a little bit of another, so full-time wide receiver, shutdown slot corner, or full-time corner, and then part-time um, slot receiver or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be full-time both ways. The interesting conversation with Travis Hunter is you could argue he's not the best cornerback in this draft and he's not the best wide receiver in this draft. So if a team gives him the opportunity to play both ways, you might have something there. But if you're really looking to bring him in and only play him on one side of the ball, that brings up a much deeper conversation.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. I mean, that's the main reason why he got the Heisman nod because what he did on both sides of the ball, right?
Yeah.
Um, and in the NFL, Ray Lewis, he said it best. It's a quicker game, harder hitting. So
Yeah.
he might save himself by just playing on one side.
Oh yeah. The NFL's a whole nother ball game. It's just a lot faster all around. So want to take a step back from these rookies. We're gonna hear a lot more about them over the next couple months as the draft process unfolds, as they do the combine, as rookie rankings start coming out. But obviously, for the next couple months, we still have the NFL season going on, so the playoffs are going strong. So me personally, I'm not full into the dynasty offseason mode. Even if people
Not yet.
are approaching me for trades, I tell them hold off. I'm not interested. Wait until the Super Bowl is over to trade. I think you really need to see as things play out, as injuries play out, especially in these playoff teams. I mean, you have half the league in the playoff right now, with 14 of 32 teams making it. So
Come on, you
you
mean you
know,
don't want to trade me Bucky yet before he blows up?
oh man, let's talk about Bucky here in a second. So, but first thing I want to do is I do want to go ahead and break down some of these rookies from last year. This is something that, gosh, just 2024 was a year unlike any other. We had a couple of rookies go really high that didn't perform. I'd say Marvin Harrison is at the top of that list, but I could argue as an Arizona Cardinals fan, he did just fine. I think his expectations were through the roof. And then a lot of rookies that weren't expected to perform and did well. So there's going to be a couple of guys that I'm going to want to call out. One of the interesting facts that the fantasy footballers brought up is that this is the first time in almost 15 years that we have not had two rookie running backs um, end up in the top 24 by the end of the year. Bucky Irving was the only one as finished as the running back 14, and Tyrone Tracy finished just outside the top 24, finished as
Ooh,
running back about 25, 26, depending upon your scoring format. So these rookie running backs definitely underperformed. Bucky's definitely somebody that stood out. We can go ahead and talk about Bucky right now. I know it's somebody that you're interested in, but go ahead and give me your thoughts on these 2024 rookies and how they did last year.
talking about deep three specific or in general?
Anything you want. What's on your
Oh,
mind?
I'm gonna say at the beginning of the season, nobody knew who Bucky was, right?
Hmm.
I was a fan of him coming out of Oregon. I thought he had some pop to him. He was going to be an interesting asset next year, but with injuries, right? Rashad White went down. Um, he took on the role, and now look at him. He's going to star this weekend. He's probably going to make some noise. Um, I'm curious to see what Tampa Bay does in the playoffs. I'm rooting for them. I like Baker Mayfield's story. Um, but you have the other guy up there. I just shake my head. Jonathan Brooks. What in the hell? Guy couldn't catch a break. And unfortunately, those that drafted him paid the price this season. Now, is he going to play next season? Is he going to be healthy? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you brought up a couple of points there. We have a lot to talk about with Bucky Irving, so let me just stick to Jonathan Brooks. He was definitely the running back that everybody had their eye on, um,
I wouldn't
coming
say
as the
everybody.
rookie. I
I,
mean, you could
I'd say
talk
nobody.
about. So obviously we have Trey Benson. We're gonna have Braylon Allen that we could talk about here, but a lot of these running backs in my mind, were underwhelming. I think Jonathan Brooks, as you brought him up, we were all hoping he would come off that ACL flying, re-tearing the same ACL, and then Carolina turning around and giving Chuba Hubbard the bag does not make you optimistic. He came into the season as a top 10 dynasty running back before he even took a snap. And right now he's well outside the top 24. I believe the last time I saw the rankings, he was at about dynasty running back 30. He's someone that we're really going to have to see it, whether or not how much of 2025 they give him off, but really want to just see this guy get healthy before he makes a comeback. But a lot of these other running backs, um, I think were optimistic even when they got the opportunity and they just didn't flash. Trey Benson in Arizona dealt with a lot of injuries. James Conner stayed pretty healthy, but even when he got the opportunities, really didn't, like I say, flash like we were hoping. He was someone that was on a top two or top three running back on a lot of people's big boards last year. Braylon Allen, very hot and cold. This could be contributed to the Jets altogether. He flashed so big when he came on. Um, but once again, very underwhelming, especially in the back half of the year. But that could be really contributed to the Jets as a whole. Tyron Tracy, I'm a little bit nervous about the Giants replacing or drafting somebody else in this upcoming class. What are your thoughts on that? I think as a whole, as you approach the running back landscape of this being a strong rookie running back class. I mean, I'm nervous about a lot of these veteran running backs getting replaced or getting competition.
Well, I mean, if you talk about Tyron Tracy, I think him Barkley moving on and the Giants just having no chance in hell doing anything this season. I think that helped Tracy out. I mean, he blew up the last game of the season.
Hmm.
Um, but then these other running backs that you're saying, right? CMC, that's going to be an interesting situation because
Yeah.
CMC got hurt, and then his backup got hurt, which then left us to the rookie running back Isaac Guerrero, who
Yeah.
had flashes when he was healthy. I think it's going to be interesting there what happens in that merry-go-round, right? CMC, I'm banking on him being healthy. That was just a nightmare to begin with.
Hmm.
Um, and then another, I mean, I think last time we spoke, a guy that I was interested in that kind of just did nothing this season, in part due to Saquon blowing up, was Will Shipley. I was kind of, I was high on him. Well, not necessarily high, but I had him in the back of my head thinking might have contributed a little bit, but Saquon with a monster season just kind of pushed him away. That didn't help. And then also another guy that I was looking at that did okay was Blake Corum. because
He
I
got
was
hurt.
curious. Yeah, he did get hurt, but I was I was gonna, I was suspected Kyron Williams wasn't gonna be doing as well, but he just kept that going, and he really hasn't let up. So
Yeah, Blake Corum is somebody that a lot of people suspected to come into the season and compete. A lot of people were nervous. Me personally were nervous about Kyron Williams, even from a dynasty standpoint, to hold on to the
right,
job. Blake Corum looked phenomenal in Michigan, and Sean McVay burns and turns running backs. I mean, he is not shy about giving the hot hand and passing it off to somebody. So I think that made a lot of people nervous as well. But yeah, a lot of these running backs very underwhelming, and there are not a lot of them I'm looking to buy going into next season. I'm not really interested in buying Blake Corum, or at least none of them are valued high. I think if anything, you could buy a lot of these running backs very cheaply. I think you could buy Blake Corum pretty cheap. I think you could buy Trey Benson pretty cheap. They just extended James Conner. The only one that you really couldn't, and this is the one, let's take a couple minutes here and talk about the man of 2024, the Dynasty, you know, just stud. A lot of people were drafting him in the end of the third, early fourth, might have even have been on a waiver wire pickup after your
I was just
draft
about to say that
ended.
if they
If you,
draft,
yeah, if you had a 3-round rookie draft, there's a very strong possibility that Bucky Irving was not drafted, similar to Puka Nacua last year. um, he was a guy that on the season had a less than 50% snap percentage. So even over the total season, you see here, even in the second half, I mean, he's floating around, 50% average, even though his numbers on a PPR standpoint, or even on half PPR that we see here, are through the roof. And somebody that everybody is excited about going into next season. Really seems like the running back that took the job away from Rashad White. And once again, kind of the hot name right now. So I want to talk about this. I want to break down Bucky Irving here for the next maybe even 5 or 10 minutes. So what I want to do is I do want to start at Keep Trade Cut. Very popular Dynasty website. I'm assuming that if you are listening to this channel right now, that you have heard of Keep Trade Cut. You have maybe used it. If you have not, it's a great tool. KeepTradeCut.com, trade calculator, power rankings. It is a, how would you call it, a crowdsourced market. Every time you log on, it'll have you pick keep trade cut between a couple of different players, and it takes into everybody's opinion, millions of data points to figure out these rankings. So when we pull up keep trade cut, once again, this is an ongoing. If you see here, they have Bucky Irving as the RB6 in terms of dynasty. This is above Kyron Williams. This is above Jonathan Taylor. This is above James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown. Where's your head at, Nez? I want to kind of open the floor. You're someone that is interested in Bucky Irving. I know. I think you've even approached me in a couple of leagues about trading for Bucky Irving. Just give me your thoughts. Where's your head at?
my first thought is you can keep trade cut in the trash. Unless you have a no end dynasty league, you're gonna have some interesting rankings in there. But if you ask me, I try to make a push now. I mean, Bucky Irving, yes, he did really well this season, but I can see Bucky being the running back that people aren't sold on yet. And quite
Really?
frankly, if you look at that offense, you look at the pieces on that team, Baker Mayfield's going to be there for a while, right? He's what, only 5 years into the league? Five, if that, right? He's still young. Mike Evans, he's probably on his way out. But then the rest of the team, right? Cade Otton, Chris Godwin, that team's relatively young. So I think moving forward, Bucky's going to have a few good years, considering he's started so hot so early in his career. So I think if you have the opportunity, trade some draft picks, some future picks, right? Trade it for Bucky. See if you can get him. You ask me, I don't know if people are completely sold on him yet. That's just me optimistically thinking I'm going to snag him in a few leagues. But
That is it.
yeah,
That is interesting because my mind would be Bucky's value has never been higher, and from what you're saying is that his value can only go higher. That you have a top five dynasty running back ranking on Bucky Irving, and you
I
are
think so.
all right. So that is that is huge because I would be arguing that you could sell Bucky. So if you were a rebuild, if you were 2 years out, I would almost capitalize on Bucky right now. I think you could get easily an early first, two late first, something like that from a guy that's competing, get a first this year and a first next year. He is somebody that people are, I think, because the name is hot, that you could buy it right now. Because once again, if we look at these rankings, I mean, Nez, tell me right now, would you rather have Bucky Irving or Brees Hall in Dynasty?
Bucky,
Would you rather have Bucky or
100%.
Saquon Barkley in Dynasty?
For Dynasty,
Yes.
that's a toss up.
Damn. Okay, so yeah, so you are in the top five. You have solidified him. I think we would both agree that Gibbs and Bijan are above him. I would have to kick you off this channel if you thought otherwise.
No, I agree.
Devon Achane, injury history makes me nervous. Kyron Williams, what we just talked about the way that Sean McVay runs that offense. And then there's a lot of toss-ups. I mean, we're looking at obviously Jonathan Taylor here, very hot and cold. James Cook, Josh
Very.
Jacobs, Chase Brown. Are there any of these guys, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, that you would consider over Bucky Irving right now?
Oh, those last two guys I'd trade for Bucky in a heartbeat.
Okay.
In a dynasty league. Um,
I think you could
it's funny.
get. So I think if you were a Derrick Henry owner and a team that was competing had Bucky Irving, you could convince them, hey, Derrick Henry's going to have a better next 1 to 2 years. So in a redraft next season, I'm going to take Derrick Henry over Bucky Irving. No doubt. I think Derrick Henry still is going to have that workload. He's going to be 31, 32 years old, but Baltimore's going to run him into the ground. I did not see any hesitation or any thought of him slowing down. And Bucky, I need to see it. I mean, Derrick Henry seems like a bona fide top five, but obviously 2 years from now, 3 years from now, as Henry starts to fall off, Bucky seems like someone that could really solidify himself as a top five dynasty running back for multiple years to come.
I'm actually looking now who has Bucky in our one league and how he's doing because I almost think uh, a team that is a win now would probably go Henry over Bucky.
I,
And this
I
guy does
agree. I agree.
this guy does not look win now.
A
So
win now team, I agree, they will be the team that, although they've had Bucky and they probably had success, might be willing to gamble on a veteran and maybe you can convince them, send them a message and say, hey, this guy's a sure thing. Um, Want to bring up one more website. Once again, if you are in the Dynasty community, you've probably heard of this, and this is called Dynasty Daddy. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off our videos on the live stream while I go ahead and I scroll through this. But really, it's a great website for seeing what trades have been made for a particular player. You can insert a player's name, insert your league settings, and it will give you trades that have previously been made. I said that for this player, and it gives you examples to go off of. So the very first example we see here, Bucky and the 105 for Jahmyr Gibbs. That's tough to me. That feels like a toss up in a class like this. I haven't done a lot of research on the rookies to be honest to see who would I be taking at the 105, but it sounds like it would be a first round wide receiver or first round running back. So if you were high on Bucky and you had him as a top 5 dynasty running back, I might lean that Bucky on the 105 side versus the Gibbs side. But if you were looking to sell Bucky high, absolutely love this upgrade to go ahead and grab Gibbs. Um, One more trade here. Looks like a guy sold Bucky for Jacobs in 2 seconds. Maybe that's a guy that's competing, maybe looking to spread out his assets a little bit. There's just so much data here that you can find online. Here's Bucky involved in a Bijan Robinson trade. Looks like a guy sold the house for Bijan Robinson, even in a two quarterback league. Um, but just a great online asset. Ooh, Bucky for the 109. Give me Bucky all day. Think there's a lot of value here. Bucky and Amari Cooper for JSN. Probably take the Bucky and Amari Cooper side. What are your thoughts on some of these deals? Oh my gosh, Bucky for the 203. What are we looking at?
That I would agree. What the hell's going on there? The first one,
this is
Gibbs, and
yeah. Let's talk about that first one, and then I want to come back to this tight end one here. But give me your thoughts, Bucky and the 105 for Jahmyr Gibbs.
I don't know if I would do that. Why? I mean,
what side are you? What side are you not doing it from? I'm assuming you like Bucky on this.
I do, but I like Gibbs too. I think it's only a matter of time before Montgomery's leg falls off.
I agree.
So I think that's going to be Gibbs all the way.
That I liked here from, it looks like 2 days ago, we have the 102 and 104 for Bucky and Trey McBride in a 0.5 tight end premium full PPR.
I think you of all people know how much it sucks to go against tight ends in a tight end premium. Interesting. I mean, it depends on what the roster needs are, right?
This is tough when you start getting into trades, and in, future episodes of this channel, I'll absolutely be looking to break down people's rosters, but I absolutely, when you are looking at trades, have to take into consideration the rosters. Are you competing? Are you rebuilding? Interesting, though, Bucky and Trey McBride being so young, you could argue it could go either way, even in a rebuild. If I had the 102 and 104, I might be interested in Bucky and Trey McBride to kind of accelerate that rebuild, and two more surefire assets. I think it comes down to your need at tight end. This is a weak tight end class. I mean, the tight end out of Penn State, we'll see. We'll see if there's one that goes in the first round. I've seen a couple of mocks, but I'm not convinced. Outside of Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, there really haven't been a lot of young tight ends that have solidified themselves. So to go ahead and get a top 5 dynasty running back, a top 5 dynasty tight end, I might take the Bucky and Trey McBride side on this one.
Hey, you got to give Laporta a little credit.
I said top 5. I said,
okay.
If you want to put if you want to put Laporta, McBride, and Bowers in the same tier for Dynasty, I would not blame you.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to trades, teams, right? But that's interesting. I think with Irving and McBride, you have players who have established themselves, right? We've seen in drafts, it's not a given. If they're top pick, it's not a given, right? Keon Coleman, I thought, was going to be a breakout star. Granted, he got hurt, but
I agree. I mean, that's another rookie, Keon Coleman. Maybe another conversation for another day. Someone that I was very high on. Actually ended up taking over Brian Thomas in a rookie draft. There's maybe a regret there for you, but another conversation for another day. Want to go ahead and transition here. This was a lot of great conversations that we had. Thank you, Knez, for bringing forth what you were interested in talking about. Bringing forward these conversations. Once again, gonna take a quick second, go ahead and promote the Dynasty Doctor Twitter channel, the X channel. Go ahead and follow along. I post every day, and we will be posting live on YouTube and various social media content, various social media channels throughout the summer as Dynasty is unfolding. So, all right, so gonna go ahead and transition here. One of my favorite things about Dynasty or about fantasy football are the memes. I don't think we get to take advantage of the memes as much as we would maybe hope. One of my favorite is, I don't know if your audio is going to work for this, Knez. Let me know.
Dude, I think he's doing the dice thing too much. That's really all he's got. Dude, I think he's doing the dice thing too much.
Knocked up.
That's really all he's got.
It's all he's got.
Dude, I think he's doing the dice thing too much.
A little jealous. And then one more. This is a great. scene from the Wedding Crashers talking about week 18 commissions versus week 17
What is wrong
commissioners.
with you?
What do you mean what's wrong with? What's wrong with you?
No, what's wrong with you?
No, what's wrong with you? You're projecting.
Drop it.
You drop it. You stop projecting on me. Why don't you go enjoy yourself while I go ice my balls and spit up blood?
Drop it!
Team player.
What is wrong with you?
What do you mean what's wrong with? What's wrong with you?
For those of you
No, what's
maybe
wrong
don't
with
know,
you?
week
No, what's wrong with
17 is the
you?
way to go.
You're projecting.
Maybe
Drop
week
it. You
18
drop it. You stop projecting on me.
championship
Why don't you go
is-
enjoy yourself while I go ice my balls and
should
spit
not
up
be a
blood?
commissioner.
Drop it!
Team player.
What is wrong with you?
Wrong with you?
What do you mean what's wrong with? What's wrong with?
All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and take this moment now to take a quick second and give a little bit of advice. Knez, go ahead and just sit back and let me spit some game here for a second. And one of the things that I want to talk about, one of the biggest pieces of advice that people who are maybe new to Dynasty is how do you approach a trade? So you're interested in trading. Let's say you want to buy a specific player, you want to buy a specific position. How do you even approach this? Where do you even start? My recommendation is to obviously use the internet for data. Data is great. As somebody with a PhD, I love data, and to take advantage of what is out there. I had mentioned Keep Trade Cut before. If you pull up your league, you can find power rankings on Keep Trade Cut, and it'll give you a breakdown of each team and where they're strongest, where they're weakest. And what is great about this is you can find where a team has a surplus of a position or a lack of a certain position. So, for example, if I just know I'm weak at running back, I want to trade for a running back. I'm not going to go into the deal thinking I want to trade for James Conner. I want to trade for Bijan Robinson. There may be the guy that has Bijan Robinson only has Bijan. He's obviously not going to trade him. So what you want to do is you want to target the player that has a surplus of running backs, and they will inherently value their running backs less. So for example, if I was interested in buying a running back, I would go look at Team Nine's roster, Brodsky, see what running backs he has, and then look at buying one of those particular running backs. Once again, somebody young, somebody old that maybe I thought he valued inherently less because he has that surplus. And then how am I going to approach the trade with Mr. Brodsky? Well, he's ranked 11th in quarterbacks. So if I have a surplus of quarterbacks, he's probably going to want those. So that is the easiest way just once again to easily break this down. We can go into some detail later. Use the online power rankings to find teams with a surplus of a certain position that you are interested in buying. They will inherently value those players cheaper and offer them players of the position that they do not have as much of value, that they are certainly weak in. If somebody is ranked as this guy has the lowest ranking running backs but the most picks, if I were to be interested in buying one of his draft picks, I would be looking to offer him a running back. That is the exchange once again. He is so weak at running backs. He is looking at that position as such a high need for his team. He will inherently value running backs more in the trade market. So that is just a quick bubble on how I like
Not
to
the number
approach
11.
trades. So what's your thought on that, Nez?
Look at number 11.
Nakua Matata, is that you?
That's me. Gibbs and Henry.
So once again, Gibbs and Henry. Let's use your team as an example. Thanks for pointing that out. So number 2 in running back, number 12 in tight end, and number 10 in quarterback. So it looks like you're a little weak at quarterback and tight end, but very strong at running back. So if we went to buy your running backs, now let's see, why are you so strong at running back? Gibbs, Henry, ETN, Austin Eckler. So you're really held up by Jahmyr Gibbs, and that can be where this system can be a little flawed. For example, I would almost bet that the person who's ranked number 1 in tight end probably has Brock Bowers. They're probably not trading Brock Bowers, but do they have a second or third tight end that they might be interested in? So sometimes if the number one team, doesn't have the right assets to trade for, look at the number 2 rank, the number 3 rank, and go from there until you find that surplus. So for example, if we went to this last guy, players only, so he's got 4 running backs as one of the last place teams: Kyron, Taylor, Pacheco, and James Conner. You could probably buy James Conner or Isaiah Pacheco for cheaper from this team than you would another team. So there you go. So last thing of the day that I want to talk to you about, Nez, I would really love to just break down. I want to take a step back and I want to look at dynasty quarterbacks. I want to get your thoughts on, gosh, the overall rankings as this year has unfolded. We've had so much change. I mean, we can bring up a player like C.J. Stroud that before the season was top 3 in rookie running back dynasty rankings right here where Jaden Daniels currently is as a rookie, and now I don't even see him on the top 8 of my screen. Um, what are your thoughts? Just give me your general perception on how quarterbacks performed this year, and where's your head at, kind of heading into next year with quarterbacks and when it comes to dynasty.
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, in a league of their own. Mahomes took a step back. Stroud, don't know what to make of that. Jalen Hurts, I thought Sparkley would have hurt him, but he didn't. Burrow, good when he's healthy. And then Purdy. I think the whole Niners just went downhill.
Yeah, so Purdue's someone we'll get to here in a second. I think, we all know that the 49ers are going to pay him quite handsomely this offseason, so we'll be interested in seeing how that turns out. But as you said, I mean, in terms of keep, trade, cut rankings, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are in a tier of their own. 3, 4, 5, Daniels, Burrow, Hurts are also in a tier of their own. Daniels with that rushing ability. This is somebody you could absolutely sell at their peak in Jaden Daniels, someone that we expect to have a very strong career. But once again, a lot of people have said the same thing about C.J. Stroud last year. Are you looking to cash out and kind of win the lottery? There's a lot of tier breaks here when it comes to the quarterbacks. I want to scroll down here, get into tier 7. If you can see here, if you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing here, Nez, we got Drake May, C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, Bo Nix, and Caleb Williams. So 3 rookies. C.J. Stroud in a second year. You could argue even Jordan Love, second, third year with how much he had to sit. Where's your head at with these 5 guys? Are you buying any of them? Are you selling any of these players?
Stroud.
You buying or you're buying Stroud?
Buying.
Okay.
All in.
Why?
Well, he lost 2 of his receivers. 1 for the whole season. And that hit him hard. But I think he'll bounce back when everybody's healthy. That's
interesting. He's somebody that I think he's settled in right to where he kind of needs to be as a pocket passer that doesn't rush a lot. For me, it's really hard to judge these rookies: Drake May, Bo Nix, and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is someone that really took a step back, but we could absolutely see a new head coach and offensive coordinator come in. I think Bo Nix and Drake May are 2 rookies that are going to get weapons this offseason. I could see T. Higgins going to the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos drafting a strong weapon or signing a strong weapon in free agency, so it's really tough to see. I think somebody that I personally am high on is going to be Kyler Murray. I mean, I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, but I think with that rushing upside, he's currently QB 13. He finished higher than QB 13. He was a top 12 quarterback finish this year. I think he disappointed a lot of people, but the Cardinals are a team that are just starting to turn things around. Marvin Harrison was disappointed, but they're going to break it down and I think get another wide receiver going forward. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. I think there's a lot of potential here in a lot of these quarterbacks, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and wrap us up right now. It's getting to the point.
This is great. I mean, it's just going to be interesting.
Do you want to give me one final takeaway? Anybody that you really love for the quarterbacks, like somebody that you really think might even move up to the top 10? I mean, what about your boy Trevor Lawrence here?
So, curious to see what happens with McCarthy. he caught the short end. We'll see what happens there.
I agree. It's
But
interesting to see
I was going to
what the
say
Vikings
the
do.
last take that I'll make has nothing to do with quarterbacks. It has everything to do with Jameson Williams. I'm sticking by my projection that he will outperform Bijan Robinson when it's all said and done. I will die by that.
So for an inside joke, Knez traded a future draft pick that ended up being Bijan Robinson for Jameson Williams. So we will always live infamously or look back in infamy to see how these two performed, how they ended up. This is something that we will always look back on. I might have to buy you a Jameson Williams jersey one day, or maybe a Bijan Robinson jersey to remind you of what you missed out on. So.
Nothing. But yeah, actually going back to the quarterback situation, I got to give it up to my boy Sam Darnold.
There you go.
I hope that they do give him the comeback player of the year. Granted, I put $10 on him. But all in all, I think what he's done with Minnesota is awesome. And that's why I think that Minnesota locker room is going to be interesting at what they do moving forward, because they have McCarthy, right? They invested. I don't think they realized what they had with Sam Darnold. But
I agree. It'll be interesting to see what he does. And there was a lot of arguments about is Sam Darnold even eligible for the Comeback Player of the Year award, but he is. You can go on FanDuel or DraftKings right now and bet that. We're gonna go ahead and sign us off right now. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This was a great first episode. Knez, thank you so much for coming. Gonna see you in future episodes. I know that. Appreciate everybody for tuning in once again, and we will go ahead and see everybody next time. So everybody take care. Enjoy that Ohio State-Texas game.
14-14.